Welcome to the July edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. Each month we put together a selection of plants that are in bloom in that particular month, and we make a sheet out of this which we pass out to visitors when they come to visit the garden. So we're going to walk through the plants that are on the sheet for this month. Puyas are plants in the bromeliad family that come from South America. Their range generally follows the Andes from Chile and Argentina in the south up to Colombia in the north. And this is one of the Chilean species. This one is Puya coerulea variety monteroana. And it has rather smaller rosettes of leaves that aren't as silvery as some of the other forms of the species, but it's really sending up so many stalks this year, I can't believe it. So the flowers are long, tubular, and dark purple in color. And it's been making stalk after stalk. It's been on our What's in Bloom in June, and here it is in July again because it's continuing to make more stalks. Puya coerulea variety monteroana. Here we have Agave victoriae-reginae, named after Queen Victoria, and one of the more famous agaves because of its beautiful leaves, which have white markings on them, look like they were painted on. Actually, this particular specimen is unusual because instead of being continuous, the lines are sort of like little dashes. But its inflorescence seems impossibly tall for the size of the plant, and it's not quite in flower yet, but it has white flowers. We do have pictures of the flowers in full bloom to include with this in the video. But the flower stalk emerges remarkably quickly, and it will finish this summer, and that'll be the end of it for this plant. Some forms of victoriae-reginae will have pups. This one does not, so that'll be the end of the story. Agave victoriae-reginae. Eriogonums are plants in the family Polygonaceae, and they're commonly called California buckwheat or wild buckwheat. They are very common in California and in many different habitats. And most of them are pretty small, but this is one of the larger ones. And this one is Eriogonum giganteum. And its common name is St. Catherine's lace. And we've got a lot of it here at the Bancroft Garden, and it puts on a big show in the summertime. Eriogonum giganteum. A lot of the aloes that we grow here in California come from South Africa, and South Africa is really home to a great many species of aloe, but the genus ranges northward all the way up through Africa and into the Arabian Peninsula, and that's the north end of its range. And this is one of the species from Arabia. This is Aloe Tomentosa. Tomentosa means woolly, and that's because the flowers are covered with woolly hairs that are quite thick. And this one is just coming to bloom, not quite open yet, but we'll include pictures in our video to show you the open flowers of Aloe Tomentosa. The rosette never gets a trunk on it, it's just a stemless rosette, but these amazing woolly flowers every year, Aloe Tomentosa. Agaves have a big distribution in the Caribbean Basin and Central America and up into the southwestern United States. But Mexico has the most species, and there are some that are widely cultivated and others that are quite hard to find in cultivation. And that's the case with this one blooming above me. That's Agave Durangensis, named after the state of Durango in central Mexico. This is the first time we've ever had it flower here. As we film here at the end of June, it has not quite opened its flowers yet, but they will soon be forthcoming, and we're really pleased to have it. Like all agaves, it makes a big, gigantic inflorescence, very dramatic, and here it is doing it right now, Agave Durangensis. At the Ruth Bancroft Garden, we have quite a few hybrid agaves as well as the species. And this is one that I hybridize myself. This is Agave Parasana from the state of Coahuila in northern Mexico, crossed with Agave xylonacantha from east central Mexico. And this is the first time it's bloomed, and it's made a wonderful tall stalk, as agaves will do. The parents, one of them has floral branches and the other does not. And we were wondering how it would come out on the offspring, and it does have little short stubby branches, but you have to really look close to see that there are floral branches on it. Agave Parasana x xylonacantha. There are 600 or so species of aloe, and they're quite widespread in Africa, in Madagascar, and in Arabia. The southern species in Madagascar and southern Africa never have hairy flowers, but some of those at the north end of the range do. And this is a rather rare one of these, Aloe Lovronos Eye, and it comes from Arabia and not commonly seen in cultivation. So we have both a yellow flowered form and a red flowered form. They occur both together. And its flowers are not quite open yet as we film this, but they are really stunningly furry because of the hairs on them. Really a treat to see it bloom, and it always blooms in the summertime. Aloe Lovronos Eye. The genus Nolina occurs in the western United States and southward into Mexico, and it has traditionally been in its own family, Nolinaceae, but now many botanists put the whole Nolinaceae as a subfamily into the asparagus family, and then we have subfamily Nolinoideae. But in any case, this is a family of plants from North America that have separate male and female individuals. So in this case, we have a female one and a male one, both coming into flower. Now, in order for it to set seed, the bees that pollinate it have to visit both plants. So it visits the female plant to get pollen, to get nectar, and then the male plant to get pollen, and in going back and forth manages to cross-pollinate, and then the seed is produced. This species, Nolina Bigalovia, is not common. It grows in Southern California and in western Arizona and southward into Baja California. And it isn't as narrow-leaved as some of the other Nolinas, but a wonderful plant, and the inflorescence has many, many thousands of very tiny flowers. So each individual flower is so small as to be inconspicuous, but all together they make a big impression with that big spire, and especially when they're backlit by the sun at the beginning or the end of the day. Nolina Bigalovia. There are many, many aloe species that occur in South Africa, and a lot of them grow in the eastern part of the country where the rain falls in the summer, but there are some that also grow in the west part of South Africa where the rain falls in the winter. And this one is a hybrid, which I made between two of the winter-growing ones. So that is Aloe pearsonii and Aloe distans, both of which come from the northwestern part of South Africa. And my idea here was Aloe distans is a very easy to grow aloe, at least here in winter rainfall California. And Aloe pearsonii is a little bit more difficult to grow, but it has a wonderful habit, upright growth, and these towers of leaves that turn reddish. And so by combining them, I was hoping to get something that had the verticality of Aloe pearsonii with the easy growth of Aloe distans. And that's just what it does, although it doesn't seem to grow as well in areas that don't have winter rainfall like we do. There is one clone of this that was brought into cultivation by the Huntington and given the cultivar name Hellskloof Bells. So that's the same cross, but these are actually different individuals. And the flower colors are a little bit different from one to the other because they're separate seedlings. So this one here has a little more yellow in the flower. That one there has a little more red in the flower, all from the same seed batch, Aloe pearsonii x distans. Among the many agaves, there are some species that just don't look like our usual conception of agave. And that's true of this one, Agave bracteosa. It comes from northeastern Mexico near Monterrey, and it does not have any teeth on it, doesn't have big blue leaves or whatnot like a typical century plant does, but it is an agave nonetheless. It has very flexible leaves that are green or blue-green, and the flower spikes that are coming up now. And these look like giant bottle brushes when they're out. The flowers are off-white, just developing now, and the flowers aren't out yet, but we'll include pictures showing the open flowers so you can see what those look like. Agave bracteosa. Traditionally, agave and manfreda have been classified as two separate genera in the agave family. And the manfredas, although closely related, differ in having soft, flexible leaves, sometimes even deciduous, which regular agaves never are. Well, they're so close to each other that some botanists now favor putting all of the manfredas into agave, in which case it's all just one genus agave. However, in horticulture, manfreda has sort of a place all its own, and so the crosses between agaves and manfredas we call mangave, with an X in front of it to indicate that it's a hybrid. And this one is one called Mangave Mission to Mars. So this was done by hybridizer Hans Hansen, who has produced many new Mangave hybrids. And he named it Mission to Mars because the reddish-purple spots on the leaves cover it so extensively that the whole plant is reddened, like the red planet. Now that it's coming into bloom, we see that the red color is lessening at the middle of the rosette, and up comes this dramatic inflorescence with many yellow-green flowers. Mangave Mission to Mars. This plant is Russelia equisetiformis in the family Plantagenaceae, and its common name is firecracker bush because of these red flowers like little firecrackers. It comes from Mexico and Guatemala, and really is amazing for the sheer numbers of flowers that it produces in the course of a season. So it'll bloom all summer long and into the fall. Its name, equisetiformis, means resembling an equisetum or a horsetail, and that's because the stems and the very narrow leaves look like a horsetail. That's the reason why it got its name, but the flower gives it away. It's nothing to do with a horsetail. Russelia equisetiformis. Mesquites are desert trees that are quite common in the deserts of the US Southwest and southward into Mexico. And this one is Prosopis glandulosa, the honey mesquite. And it is a very useful plant. It has many little tiny fingers of flowers that are attractive to bees, and it's a great source for honey. Its seed pods are edible and have been ground up and made into a flour and used as a food source for many native peoples. And in addition to that, the wood is very hard, and it's used to make charcoal. Oftentimes barbecue charcoal is made from mesquite wood, and larger specimens make wonderful furniture because the wood is so hard. The honey mesquite is easy to grow here and very useful for providing pools of shade in a hot, sunny summer in Walnut Creek. Prosopis glandulosa. Erythrina is a very large genus in the Fabaceae or pea family, and the genus has a very big distribution. They occur in the Pacific, they occur in Africa, and they occur in the Americas. This one is Erythrina bidwillii, which is actually a hybrid between two of the American species, one from North America and one from South America. It freezes at the end of the year every year when we get our cold winter weather, and we cut it right down to the ground. And every year it comes roaring back and does this all summer long. So it's really an amazing floriferous plant with bright red flowers. Erythros is the root word for the genus name Erythrina, and that means red in Greek. And many plants in the family or in the genus have red flowers and also often red seeds, which are very decorative and sometimes used for beads and so forth. This plant has been in the garden for many decades and puts on a show like this every year. Erythrina bidwillii. This plant is Dasylirion wheeleri. It's a plant that grows abundantly in Arizona. I've seen large colonies of it driving on the freeway in Arizona. And it is a plant that used to be in the family Nolinaceae, but lately that family has been transferred into the Asparagaceae, in which case it would be the subfamily Nolinoideae. But in any case, all the plants in that group have separate male and female plants, and these are male plants here. And they have many, many little fingers of tiny flowers that are very attractive to bees, and we'll zoom in and show you a picture of the bees visiting the flowers. The common name for this plant is desert spoon, and that seems a little odd. What is spoon-like about that plant? Well, that's because if you remove the leaf, at the base, the leaf flares out where it clasps the stem, and that basal part is like a spoon, and it's also quite shiny and satiny. And in Mexico, those leaf bases are oftentimes used to make decorations for churches at festival occasions. So it's a wonderful plant for its use, as well as the beautiful rosettes of long leaves with toothy edges and the tall flower spikes. Dasylirion wheeleri. This tree is known as the desert willow, but that is really a misleading name. It has nothing to do with a willow. It's in the family Bignoniaceae, the trumpet vine family. Like other plants in that family, it has flowers that are like a funnel at the base, then with a flared mouth. And it comes from the southwest United States and northern Mexico, and has a very long blooming period in the summer months. It's a deciduous tree. In the wintertime, it loses all its leaves, but the branches have a very sinuous pattern and show up beautifully against the winter sky. So even attractive when it's leafless. Chalopsis linearis. Most of the plants called barrel cactus are in the genus Pherocactus. And this genus has a wide distribution in Mexico and also the southwestern United States. This one here is Pherocactus pottsii from the state of Sonora in northwest Mexico. And it's right now in full flower and also has the fruits on it from last year's flowering. So the fruits last a very long time. The flowers are yellow with a red center, and the fruits kind of look like little yellow pineapples if you see them up close. This particular plant is actually a very famous one because when the book Pherocactus was written by English author John Pilbeam, I sent him a picture of this very plant, and it illustrates the species in the book. Pherocactus pottsii. The genus Hesperaloe is related to the yuccas and the agaves, and they all come from Mexico and the southwest United States. Now, it might be a little bit confusing to hear the name Hesperaloe, which would seem to indicate a relationship to aloe, but that's just because the most common species, Hesperaloe parviflora, has a tubular reddish flower that resembles the flower of an aloe, but it's not really related to an aloe. It is related to the yuccas and agaves. This one, however, is Hesperaloe nocturna, so named because it has nocturnal flowers. They open at night. And so, as is usual with flowers that open at night, they are white or off-white. And this one flowers for many months in the summer and into the fall. And a few flowers open at any one time, but over a very long flowering altogether. Hesperaloe nocturna. Echeverias belong to the stonecrop family, Crassulaceae, and they occur in many, many parts of Mexico, usually at higher altitude, up in the mountains rather than down by the sea. This one here is Echeveria conte from the state of Zacatecas in central Mexico. And its beautiful powdery rosettes are reminiscent of a Dudleya, but Dudleya is a separate genus that occurs farther to the west, mostly along the Pacific coast. And the flowers show that this one is an Echeveria and not a Dudleya. The flowers are quite wonderful because they're a powdery pink on the outside, but a deep red-orange on the inside. And the contrast is wonderful when you look into the flower. Echeveria conte. The genus Cyphostemma belongs to the grape family, Vitaceae, and this one is Cyphostemma jute from Namibia. What's wonderful about it is its extraordinary fat, swollen trunk. This is actually a deciduous plant. In the wintertime, all those leaves are shed, and then the big fat trunk is all that's left there and really shows nicely in the winter months. But in the summertime, the leaves come out and then it comes into flower. The flowers are quite tiny. There's flat top clusters of them all over the top of this plant. And then what follows are these fruits, which betray their relationship to grapes. They look sort of like little grapes, but however, they're poisonous, so you don't eat them. Cyphostemma jute. Some agaves are quite small, actually little enough to hold a rosette in the palm of your hand. But on the other end of the spectrum, some of them are truly gigantic, and Agave Franciscii is one of those. So its giant rosettes are so strikingly sculptural, and it also has a unique trait that other agaves do not, and that is the patterns on the leaves. So the leaves start out in a cone in the middle of the plant and peel off one by one as they mature, and as that happens, the leaf pulls away some of the waxy layer from the adjacent leaf and leaves darker patterns, sort of looking like strands of barbed wire, and that's unique to this species, Agave Franciscii. The name Franciscii is an Italian name because it was described from a garden in Italy. Now, we know originally it would have come from the New World, perhaps Mexico or perhaps even the Caribbean, but nobody knows for sure. It's been in cultivation in Europe for many, many years, and its origin is not known. Agave franciscini. That brings us to the close of our July edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. But remember, what's on our list in any given month is only a small slice of what's going on here at the garden. There's always lots of other things that aren't on the list for one reason or another. There's only so many spaces on the list. And here's an example. This is Agave shoddy eye above me with its bright yellow flowers, one of the smaller species of agaves that occurs in Arizona. Also, check out our website. We've got lots of educational opportunities, classes and workshops and so forth, and other events that take place at the garden, and we list them all on our website.